Death toll from the Taipo fire stands at 159 as search completes, while police arrest 6 more people over fire alarm system. Mixed emotions for residents of the only unaffected building at Wang Fuk Court as they return to get their personal items. And LegCo election forums resume with candidates and attendees observing a moment of silence for Taipo fire victims. Good evening, you're watching Cable News. I'm Jeremy Ju. The death toll from the Taipo fire has risen to 159 after authorities finished searching all 7 blaze-hit blocks at Wang Fuk Court and found new bodies. Meanwhile, police arrested 6 more people over the estate's fire alarm system on suspicion of making a false declaration. Evelyn Bai reports.
After days of combing through the scene, victim identification officers found 159 bodies, aged between 1 year and 97. Most of them were found in Wang Cheng House and Wang Tai House, the first 2 buildings to catch fire. Suspected bones were discovered and will be tested by forensics to confirm if they are human or animal. Authorities warned casualty figures may still rise.
The scaffoldings, a lot of bamboos that they have fallen down. So we still need to do some work on those bamboos to see any remainings or any bodies were covered by these bamboos.
Meanwhile, police detained 6 more men aged between 44 and 55 who were contractors in charge of the estate's fire alarm system. Police said the arrestees had falsely reported to the Fire Services Department that they would not deactivate the fire alarm system during the estate's renovations. Evelyn Bai, Cable News.
Residents of Wang Chi House, the sole undamaged block in the deadly inferno, returned for a 90-minute emotionally fraught visit to collect personal belongings, confronting a mix of gratitude and reality. Evelyn Bai again reports.
On the 8th day since the fire broke out, residents arrived in free shuttle bus, carrying large duffel bags and suitcases into Wang Chi House. A maximum of 2 people were allowed into each flat. I have mixed feelings. Even though our flat is unaffected, some of my neighbors and friends have passed away, said this woman. Inside the high-rise building, the fire hoses are unused. The flat windows remained sealed, and the bamboo scaffolding and protective netting are unscathed by the blaze. I feel so upset. The door was pried open. Thankfully, nothing inside got soaked. I would like to take my whole home with me, but given the circumstances, I can only take something useful, this man said. This woman said the most important thing she took is medicine for her parents and to retrieve some warmer clothing in case the weather gets cold. We cannot take much anyway, just the most essential things. Even if a large group of people are allowed to go up, what more could we take back, said this resident. Volunteers were at the site to assist residents in returning to their flats and collecting daily necessities. For those unable to visit their units today, the building will still open its doors tomorrow between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Evelyn Bai, Cable News.
The government's decision to establish a non-statutory independent review committee to investigate the deadly Taipo fire has drawn mixed reactions from legal experts and lawmakers. While one legislator said it offers flexibility and efficiency in uncovering the truth, another argued that the committee lacks inquiry powers. Xiu Yun reports.
Chief Executive John Lee announced the formation of a judge-led independent review committee to examine the fatal blaze after the disaster raised serious concerns about possible tender rigging, corruption, and corner cutting in building maintenance works. However, the decision not to appoint a statutory commission of inquiry, which possesses legal powers to summon witnesses and compel the production of evidence, has sparked criticism. Lawmaker and former Security Minister Lai Tong-kwok defended the approach, saying the Independent Review Committee is fully capable of addressing the current issues and has clear objectives. An independent review committee, unbound by rigid legal procedures, can operate with greater flexibility and complete its work more efficiently, Lai said. He added that the committee and separate government working groups would complement each other. Others remain unconvinced. Lawmaker Doreen Kong argued that the lack of statutory powers severely limits the committee's effectiveness. She said an independent commissions of inquiry, a mechanism widely used in common law jurisdictions, is the better option for getting to the bottom of the tragedy. Kong urged the government to fully explain its rationale and pushed for the current committee to be granted stronger investigative powers. Separately, senior counsel Anthony Neo cautioned that a committee without statutory backing would struggle to achieve meaningful accountability. He called on the government to clearly define and publicly disclose the committee's scope of inquiry and authority. Cheryl Yun, Cable News.
As the Legislative Council election will proceed as scheduled this Sunday, authorities have resumed the remaining 8 functional constituency election forums, 4 sessions per day. Questions regarding the follow-up efforts after the Taipo fire have been incorporated into the Q&A segment.
首先，讓我哋悼念火災罹難者。
Before the forums commenced, all participants observed a minute of silence in memory of the victims of the Wang Fuk Court fire. The first forum to be resumed after the tragedy was for candidates from the functional constituency, representing Hong Kong deputies to the National People's Congress, members of the National Committee of the nation's top political consultative body, CPPCC, and representatives of relevant national organizations. This forum included 2 mandatory questions related to the disastrous fire, including how the candidates' respective sectors could cooperate with the government to prevent future tragedies and support post-disaster reconstruction. As a mark of respect for the victims and those affected, the forums also canceled the customary group slogans and cheering segments.
A dramatic rescue unfolded in Saiwan today as 2 workers were left stranded in a tilted gondola over 30 stories high. Firefighters successfully brought them to safety.
At around 2 p.m., emergency services were called to Tower 8 of residential compound The Belchers on Pok Fu Lam Road. Reports indicated 2 workers, a man and a woman, were trapped in a suspended gondola that had tilted dangerously at a great height. Firefighters abseiled down from the building's roof to reach the pair and took over half an hour to rescue them. It is understood the workers were not injured in the incident.
South Korean President Lee Jae-myung proposed to designate December the 3rd as a national holiday to remember how the people overcame the martial law crisis that had put the nation into turmoil. Evelyn Bai reports.
1 year ago, then-President Yoon Suk-yeol declared emergency martial law, sending troops and police into the National Assembly. However, the declaration officially ended about 6 hours later, as lawmakers fought their ways to the chamber and voted to overturn it. Yoon later announced to lift the decree and was impeached, bringing down several top officials, including military and police leaders. At a special national address, Lee praised the resilience of South Korea's democratic system, highlighting that the South Korean people have made themselves fully deserving of the Nobel Peace Prize. Lee emphasized that declaring December 3rd as National Sovereignty Day would honor the courage and actions of the people. When asked about the summit with President Xi Jinping held during the Gyeongju APEC, Lee described Xi as surprisingly humorous and expressed hope for deeper cooperation across various fields. Addressing the recent Sino-Japanese spat, Lee stated that taking sides will only heighten tensions, calling on the 2 sides to coexist. On the South Korea-US ties, Lee praised US President Donald Trump, calling him as a realist, pragmatist, and master of deal-making who respects his counterparts. He said Washington giving consent to Seoul to build nuclear-powered submarines was the key outcome of his 2 recent talks with Trump. Lee also vowed to act as a pacemaker to help resume dialogue between the U.S. and North Korea. Evelyn Bai, Cable News.
The U.S. military fired twice on a suspected drug smuggling vessel in the Caribbean on September the 2nd, killing the 2 people aboard who had initially survived the first strike. U.S. President Donald Trump defended the operation and warned that the U.S. is now prepared to launch land-based strikes inside any country that allows illegal drugs to flow into America. Cheryl Yun reports.
Speaking at a cabinet meeting, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth acknowledged he did not personally observe survivors after the initial strike, but insisted the follow-up attack was justified.
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded in fire or smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you in the press don't understand.
He stressed that the on-scene admiral made the right call in ordering the second strike and was fully authorized to do so. Trump told reporters he had been unaware of the second engagement, but praised the mission's results in combating drug trafficking. He warned that land-based strikes inside countries that allow drug trafficking into the United States are now under active consideration.
If they come in through a certain country or any country, or if we think they're building mills for whether it's fentanyl or cocaine, I hear Colombia, the country of Colombia, is making cocaine. Anybody that's doing that and selling it into our country is subject to attack.
So not necessarily just Venezuela?
No, not just Venezuela.
Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer said any land attack would be an act of war, and the Congress would immediately invoke the War Powers Act to block it. Meanwhile, Colombian President Gustavo Petro hit back at Trump on social media, noting that his government has destroyed over 18,400 cocaine laboratories without missiles and invited Trump to visit Colombia and see for himself. Cheryl Yun, Cable News.
Russian President Vladimir Putin met top American envoys in Moscow to negotiate a deal to end the war in Ukraine, but they did not reach a compromise. Jamie Liu reports.
So pleased to see you.
Putin and his top foreign policy aide Yuri Yushakov sat down with Steve Witkoff, U.S. President Donald Trump's special envoy, and Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law. The meeting lasted around 5 hours. Speaking to journalists afterwards, Yushakov described the talks as constructive and highly substantive, but no agreement was reached. Yushakov said territory issues were discussed and that Moscow found some of the U.S. proposals acceptable. However, he admitted some received negative reactions from Putin and said there is still a lot of work to be done. The top Russian aide added a meeting between Putin and Trump was not currently planned. Just before the Kremlin meeting with Witkoff, a combative Putin accused European powers of sabotaging peace in Ukraine and that European demands on ending the war were not acceptable to Russia. Putin stressed that Russia did not want war with Europe, but that if Europe started one, we are ready right now. The Russian leader also threatened to sever Ukraine's access to the sea in response to drone attacks on tankers of Russia's shadow fleet in the Black Sea. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who is visiting Ireland, reiterated that any peace plan talks with Russia must involve Ukraine and that they should be open and fair and just. Zelensky added he may meet with U.S. negotiators next for an update on the Russian discussions. Jamie Liu, Cable News.
Now let's take a look at the stock market. The Hang Seng Index ended the day down 334 points. Top active stocks of the day. Alibaba was down $3.40. Tencent was down $6. Meituan was down 60 cents. And Kuaishou was down $1.55. Foreign exchange against the Hong Kong dollar. Euro 9.08, Japanese yen 50.09. Hong Kong's Purchasing Managers Index last month rose to its highest level in over 2.5 years.
The S&P Global Hong Kong PMI for November increased for the fourth month by 1.7 points from the previous month to 52.9. Both output and new orders saw their strongest growth in more than 30 months. Export orders returned to growth, ending a 13-month streak of contraction. S&P Global noted that demand for orders, whether from the local market, overseas, or the mainland, has become more robust. However, the sector remains pessimistic about the outlook for the coming year, citing concerns over economic prospects, geopolitical tensions, and escalating trade barriers.
Onto the weather now. Mainly cloudy, 1 or 2 light rain patches overnight. Temperatures will range between 19 to 22 degrees. Dry with sunny periods during the day. Moderate to fresh east to northeasterly winds. That's our news tonight. I'm Jeremy Ju. Thanks for watching and good night.